rules of mathematical writings. For engineering research, it is inevitable for us to have the equations and formulas written in our thesis and the technical papers. This is also a challenging part in the technical writing, as it involves providing descriptions for the concepts, giving definitions for the symbols and unknowns within the formulas and equations, demonstrating the derivations process, as well as highlighting the derived outcome and its applications. You will see a continuous swap between the normal text and some formulas and equations. Those formulas need to be properly explained so that the readers can find the heads and tails, and the derivation process need to be clearly demonstrated, providing the directions to the readers, allowing them to able to replicate the derivations by their own based on the guidance given by you. Since that there is a continuous swap between the normal text and the formula, normally the formula seems to be more complex, hardly readable, especially in the first glance, as the formulas are actually not as common in our daily life. Therefore, you will need to reduce the complexity of the explanations in order to keep the readers engaged and follow through your entire derivations or presentation process. Another thing is, when we learn our English in our primary or secondary schools, normally we are not taught to present equations or formulas. We learn how to construct normal sentences. Very seldom we are required to deal with formulas and equations. Therefore, you will find yourself having difficulty writing your technical papers dealing with formulas and equations. There will be quite a number of common mistakes that we normally encounter as presented in this slide. We shall look into it one by one in terms of the rules of mathematical writings. First, if you have symbols in different formula, there should be some words to separate them. Taking this as an example, there is symbols and formula. When they are being put together, there will be a confusion whether they are actually a formula or they are actually separated. In order to prevent these confusions, you can put a word in between the two, clearly indicating that this MA is alone and A is less than B is another one. Second, we should not start a sentence with symbols. Taking this as an example, the sentence starts with a symbol or an equation. This leads to the reader to ponder what actually it is, and subsequently, this will affect the smoothness of the readers to read your text, which may also leaving them queries, trying to seek for answers some other way or in some place of your thesis or technical papers. To resolve this, normally we provide a short descriptions in front of the equations in order to eliminate the possibility of misunderstanding by the readers. You know that the formulas and equations is difficult to read. Therefore, you need to provide something which is readable to the readers. Next, you need to have the symbols to be consistent. For an example, within the same paper, the UM here and UN here was used interchangeably. In fact, they are giving the same meaning with the same definitions and is referring to the same thing, but the symbol given here is inconsistent. This shouldn't happen. This may give an impression that the two symbols here are different. They may look the same. Probably at some refined level, the definitions vary slightly, and this leads to the reader to ponder in what aspect the two symbols vary each other. In order to prevent such confusions, you should use one symbol throughout the paper. Make it consistent. Next, you should use bracket only when it is necessary. This goes back to the fundamental, not to do any which is unnecessary, and to eliminate any redundancy. Although if we see the equation here, it is still mathematically correct. Obviously, the bracket is not necessary, as if we remove the bracket, the meaning carried by the equations is not altered. This made the bracket to be unnecessary and should be removed. Next, if possible, you should avoid long formula. For example, this equation here, it can be presented in this manner, having a specific unknown here, which should provide proper definitions of the unknown. A long formula may look bombastic. It seems complex, as if you are very good in the derivations, giving a general perception that you are very good with mathematics. However, you know that that is not the main purpose of presenting a paper. The ultimate goal here, it will be to the comprehensions of the reader. Unless it is necessary, normally we do not recommend long formula. There is another reason for that. Long and complex formula make it quite difficult for the reader to identify the structures of the equations, which is actually used to imply the relationship between the parameters within the equation. This is quite important, especially you want to demonstrate the relationship between different parameters. Next, we are looking at the consistency in terms of the sequence. Taking this as an example, if you are dealing with n first followed by the n, later in another place of your mathematical derivations, the symbol equivalent to m and n should also follow the sequence, which you're going to introduce m first and then followed by the n. If you look at the list of the rules for the mathematical writings, you know that the ultimate purpose is to encourage the understanding of the reader, and by all means for you to avoid confusions of the reader, leaving them to guess and find their own answer for whichever queries arise when reading your text. If you are presenting two different formulas, try not to put them together as if they are in one single formula. You know that formula is difficult to read. Normally you don't start the sentence with the symbols and formula. Instead, you provide something readable to the reader. And we'll also talk about the consistency in terms of the usage of the symbol, as well as the sequence of the symbols being disclosed. Avoid complex formulas, as this is going to burden the comprehensions of the readers, and avoid unnecessary move, which make the formula seems to be more complex without the actual purpose of it.